What's going on, guys? It's Fight Season MMA, and today I want to make a video talking about Jon Jones, Francis Ngannou, and Tom Aspinall. Jon Jones has come out and said that he wants to go out and fight Francis Ngannou. The only issue is Ngannou is no longer in the UFC. He is in the PFL. He just fought Renan Ferreira last week. I'll kind of link that video right here of kind of his win. But Jon Jones really wants to share the octagon with Francis Ngannou and really wants to avoid Tom Aspinall. So I kind of want to jump into that, talking about who would win in a possible fight, talking about Jon Jones, Francis Ngannou, would it ever happen, and of why Jon Jones is avoiding Tom Aspinall like the plague. It's one of those things that I've never seen inside the organization. The best fighters are supposed to fight the best fighters, and Jon Jones is going out there to avoid Aspinall. And I feel like if he would fight Francis Ngannou, he wouldn't retire and get one more fight. But if he would have to fight Tom Aspinall, he would rather retire instead. But before we jump into the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help the channel grow. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications, just so you guys are always notified about future UFC content releasing every single day. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video talking about Jon Jones wanting to fight Francis Ngannou and absolutely ducking Tom Aspinall in the process. So after this recent PFL event, Jon Jones has came out and says that he wants to really step in there, and it would be an honor to trade the octagon with Francis Ngannou. As we all know, Francis Ngannou was once in the UFC. He's fought the likes of Derek Lewis, Stipe Miocic a couple times. He's fought so many different individuals, and really, he wanted a lot of money to stay in the UFC, and Dana White wasn't willing to pay him that, considering that he was asking for an ungodly amount. Francis Ngannou left the UFC. He went to go box Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and now has fought the likes of Renan Ferreira inside the PFL. But Jon Jones says it would be an absolute honor to share the octagon with him, and he really wants to make that fight happen. Only issue is Dana White doesn't like crossing over with other organizations, which is completely acceptable, considering that the UFC is the leading professional mixed martial arts association inside the world at this point, and no other rival organization comes really even close. Dana White might be the biggest Jon Jones fan on planet Earth, but also Dana White is also true to his own morals, saying that just this fight will not happen no matter what. He will make this fight with Tom Aspinall, and he really hopes that Jon Jones will kind of repay him for giving him the Stipe Miocic fight and not retiring flat. But how would a fight with Jon Jones and Ngannou go? Because there is, I guess, some possibility of it happening, but really, I don't see that it would happen anytime soon, considering that Jon Jones is kind of still fighting in the UFC. His fight with Stipe Miocic is coming up here very, very soon, I believe on November 16th. Also, we got Ngannou, who's kind of just fought in the PFL, so he's going to want to take some time off. So how would this fight possibly go? I just do see Jon Jones going in there and winning because he's got a great grappling game. Not saying Ngannou doesn't, but Ngannou's kind of a slow striker, and yes, he could definitely clip Jon Jones with something, but I just do think that Jon Jones is going to be kind of too intelligent for Ngannou in there going for everything. But the real reason I want to make this video is talking about Tom Aspinall and why Jon Jones is ducking him so hard, because Francis Ngannou, in my opinion, is the way easier fight than Tom Aspinall, considering that Tom Aspinall might not hit as hard as Ngannou, but he's probably the fastest heavyweight in the organization right now. He moves like a lightweight on the feet, just kind of bouncing in and out. He knows how to just do some move that a lot of different individuals don't know how to do in that bigger weight class. Also, he's a great Brazilian jiu-jitsu and wrestling artist to where he could go in there and give Jon Jones problems on the ground, and that's something that a lot of these individuals inside the heavyweight division wouldn't really be able to do. And I think the biggest thing that Jon Jones is looking at is the frame. Jon Jones has had the size advantage in pretty much every one of those fights that he's had. Even against Ciryl Gane, he looked bigger than Gane in there, and Gane was kind of 6'3", 240, 250 pounds. But Jones, I think, was a little heavier than Gane going into that fight. So I think in every single fight, Jon Jones has had the size advantage. And in a fight with Tom Aspinall, he definitely wouldn't. I think Jones is 6'4", Aspinall 6'5". Aspinall weighs kind of around 260 pounds, 250 pounds. Jones weighs around 250, 255. So I do think that Tom Aspinall would actually have the size advantage and the speed advantage and the youth on his side as well. So I do think that this would be a very interesting fight between these two individuals. And I do think the reason that Jon Jones is pushing, like I said, for that Francis Ngannou fight, even though the realistic possibility of it happening is like almost zero, is because he understands that, yes, Francis Ngannou might be a bigger name right now, considering that he fought in the UFC. He was the former UFC heavyweight champion. He beat the likes of Stipe Miocic to win the belt, and he beat Ciryl Gane at UFC 270 in an incredible bout. But Jon Jones just doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall, and I don't think anyone wants to fight Tom Aspinall within the organization. He is an absolute nightmare matchup to go up against in that heavyweight division. Jon Jones really wants to avoid Tom Aspinall with every little possibility in him doing, because if he goes in there and steps in with Tom Aspinall, I really do think that it would get beat. And I've kind of talked about this with a couple other friends, but I don't know if it's necessarily. I think prime Jon Jones, if he moved up to heavyweight, could possibly beat Tom Aspinall. But at this point in Jon Jones' career, he's not going to be as fast. The youth is going to be on Tom Aspinall's side. I think the power is going to be on Tom Aspinall's side as well. I think just the overall like recoverability inside the octagon is going to be on his side. And I do think that he's a good enough grappler to be able to stand a chance with Jon Jones, just genuinely because Jones is, yes, he's a great grappler, but Tom Aspinall has proven inside the organization to be able to get different submissions, to be able to get different takedowns. Like that submission on Volkov was incredible in that main event in, I believe it was London, and kind of submitting someone of that caliber is a very, 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 prestigious thing on Tom Aspinall's resume, because Volkov is a really good fighter, and especially later in his career, he's kind of came into his own self. But really, Jon Jones v. Tom Aspinall is the fight that really needs to happen. It's the fight that everyone wants to see within the organization, and Dana White said it best. No one's dreaming about Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou, and there's a lot of UFC MMA fans who are just cannot wait to see this fight happen in general. I think that the average UFC fan, they always want to see Jon Jones, but I think that this fight with Tom Aspinall always is the biggest fight on Jon Jones' legacy at heavyweight, considering it, yes, Cyril Gane was a great heavyweight, but he wasn't the first option for Jon Jones to fight. That was Francis Ngannou, and now that we have a first option in a heavyweight champion who's the interim champion, who's kind of, taking his time, doing some other things, he's kind of doing what he needs to do, especially defending the belt against Curtis Blades and winning in a minute. I think that this is the fight that would be the scariest fight for Jon Jones inside the UFC right now. Like I said, for all the reasons I've kind of named, Tom Aspinall's a great grappler. He's bigger than him. Just go down the line, and I truly think that that's the reason. But I do think that this fight has a very big possibility of happening, and we'll see very quickly after UFC 309 if Jon Jones is going to retire, which I do think there is a big possibility. But if he doesn't, there's no way that Ngannou versus Jones is going to happen. Rather, that Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones is the fight to make. Like I said, Dana White has too much pride in his organization. He's not going to branch out to go have his best number one star within the organization right now, excluding Conor McGregor, go fight someone who he released and let go and walked willingly outside the UFC, and that's just not something that Dana White is going to do. Ultimately, Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones, fight everyone wants to see within the organization. Tom Aspinall is just ready and hungry for Jones, and Jon Jones is ducking him every time he gets, because he understands just how hard of a fight Aspinall is. No matter what anyone says, 100% he's ducking. No opinion within my mind. Francis Ngannou compared to Tom Aspinall are leagues and bounds with one another. Yes, Ngannou has some good strengths, but Tom Aspinall is so diverse in every little thing he does and is truly an absolute nightmare to take on within the heavyweight division. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please let me know what you think down below in the comment section about Jon Jones wanting to go out and fight Francis Ngannou instead of Tom Aspinall. I do think that the fight with Francis Ngannou just will never happen in his time, considering that Ngannou was let go by the organization, and Dana White actually came out and said he was willing to let go of Ngannou after that Derek Lewis fight, considering of how boring it was, but there were so many people who begged him not to. So I just don't think that Dana White is going to put his star pupil in Jon Jones up against someone who he let go inside the organization. Now, Tom Aspinall is a dog inside there. Dana White really wants to make that fight happen. I know he says that Tom Aspinall isn't quite deserving to call the shots yet, but considering that Tom Aspinall is the future generation, kind of be able to promote your future generation with one of the biggest stars currently, I think that's something that Dana White has the ambitions and aspirations to do, and truly would be something that would be a very, very exciting thing inside the organization to see the past in Jon Jones go up against the future in Tom Aspinall in an incredible fight at the heavyweight division. These two guys are massive, these two guys are dynamic, and these two guys are powerful in there, and two some of the best mixed martial artists currently inside the UFC organization. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoy the UFC content. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified about UFC content releasing every single day. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.